The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 51. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of successful women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Subscribe to our newsletter by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com.
Hello friend, welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan. And today I have a special lady on today. She is from Los Angeles, California. She is a, online mommy-preneur, and, she's just an amazing woman. And I'm just so glad she, said yes to being interviewed on the show. So, because I think she has a story that, we all can relate to and be inspired. So without further ado, I just want to introduce you to Denise. Denise, how are you doing today?
I am good. Thank you so much, Sheena, for inviting me to your podcast.
Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
I am a mom. I have a beautiful daughter. She's 4 years old. I've been in the beverage industry for 6 years, and I'm just in a new path of reaching my freedom lifestyle by starting my home-based business part-time. And I wanted to share my message out there for people, how to dream their dream lifestyle and how to how they could do that by having the right mindset, positive attitude, and having persistence.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Denise. And what is your cultural background?
I'm Mexican-American. I was born in the States, but my family actually moved to Mexico right after I was born. So I grew up in Ensenada, Baja California for 10 years. So it's a little bit different just because I feel like a lot of people want to come to the States rather than having to move back to Mexico. So I think that's kind of how everybody's kind of shocked when I say that to people. So my first language, I could say it is Spanish, but I did learn English and Spanish at the same time because my mom grew up in the States. So she wanted to make sure my brothers and I, spoke English. So the funny thing is that when, I was small, my mom would speak to us in English and we would respond to her back in Spanish. So I see that now, in my daughter, because I speak to her in Spanish. She's finally starting to understand it, so she'll respond back to me in English. So I think it's hilarious how I see that in her when I used to do that to my own mom.
That is so cute.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, our family migrated to Canada from the Philippines, and then we had to go back, and then we had to come back again. So, I mean, everyone has their own story as to why we moved back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's so funny when I hear other people have the same story. I was like, oh my God, me too.
Yeah, so, I mean, mine's probably a lot farther. So
oh, yeah, for sure.
Halfway across the world. So.
Yeah, from where I live now, it's probably 4 hours away, so it's not that huge.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Denise, what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
My self-confidence quote is recognizing your own self-value. I'm not sure if someone actually said it, but that's what has helped me kind of reach my self-confidence is recognizing your own self-value, because I feel like people try to compare themselves so much with other people. I don't have this, I don't have that. But once you kind of recognize that, hey, I have a message, I have my own personal self-value, it'll bring you such a long way.
Awesome. And I believe self-value is really important. And as women too, right? We're so prone to compare ourselves to others, especially, we see models on the cover of the magazine and people on TV and you're like, oh, they're so perfect. And nobody realizes how much makeup they have on, caked on, and, how much, the body of a model's been altered in a magazine. So we're so known to do that. And we tend to forget that they're not perfect either, right? They have flaws and, society alters them to make them look different. So
yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
So thanks for sharing that. And in your own words, what would be your definition of self-confidence?
I feel like self-confidence is a work in progress as you get older, because I feel like it depends on your life experience. I feel like when you recognize that you have your self-value and also recognizing that your own negative thoughts are your worst enemy, I feel like that's a formula to having self-confidence, because I feel like everyone has those negative thoughts. But once you realize, stop thinking like that and throw those out of, to the trash, it's so huge, because a lot of people don't recognize that. And I feel like once you do that, you do have self-confidence, because I feel because I used to think that, once I feel oh, I'm doubting myself or things like that, I'm oh my God, I don't have self-confidence. It's just no, as long as you recognize it, I feel like you do.
I believe that, we forget that we have to recognize these negative feelings, these negative thoughts, so that we can be aware of it, let go of it, and start receiving the new positive, feelings, thoughts. Because I was like you, I just kept on thinking I had to be positive all the time, right? And I was like, this is really not helping. And a mentor of mine told me, it's okay if you want to cry. It's okay if you get mad. It's okay if you feel sad, but you just don't stay there, right? You just recognize it, kind of, if you want, dwell in it for about 20 minutes to an hour, and then you let it go and go on to the next, right? So yeah, I believe it's just as important to recognize them so you can let it go. So thanks for sharing that. And, Denise, what was your life like before the discovery of self-confidence?
Well, I think a couple years ago, I was like in a dark place. I was in a bad relationship and I just wasn't in a happy place. I was in a very negative environment. Everyone that knows me knows I'm a very happy, positive person. But I feel like when you surround yourself with negative people and just a negative environment, it'll sooner or later catch up to you, and I got to a point that I just, how could I say this? It got to a point where I was thinking, well, it could be worse because I felt like I had to be strong enough for both of us and, I had needed to be there for him. But since I couldn't walk away from that type of environment, I had to do it for my daughter. I mean, I never grew up with that type of environment and I didn't think that she deserved that, and leaving that relationship, it took me a while to kind of find myself again, but what helped me was that I was able to surround myself with my family and friends who love me. And I don't like to think I want to blame someone for, my lack of self-confidence, but I do feel that we have a choice. And if we can't choose for ourselves, then choose for our children, for our family, that love us. And I think that's pretty huge to do.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that because it's, as women too, we feel like we always have to carry all the burden, especially when it's a significant other who's probably down on the dumps or who's just negative. And, we don't have to stay there, right? I mean, it is our choice. There is, life outside of that. Because sometimes I think we feel that maybe, this is the only person I can be with. There's no one else out there for me. And, because I was like that, I was just like, yeah, I think I'm good. I mean, I don't have to go out and look for another guy and right. I'm happy where I am. But really I wasn't, I felt trapped. I felt like it felt draining, right? And I'm sure you felt the same way. It just felt so draining and but some people just settle, right? They settle and they think that's all there is to life. There's nothing else out there. Because, women being seen as single is like a taboo. It's like nothing's wrong with being single, right? And, women who's listening to this or maybe even the men, you need to get that out of your thinking, right? Being single, there's nothing wrong with it, right? I'd rather be single than be in a relationship where someone is beating me up, right? But a lot of women stay there, right? Because they think that that's all they have and they can't get anything better. So I'm glad you were able to get out of it. So I guess your daughter was, that aha moment when you realized it was time to leave.
Yes, exactly. That's why I say, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your children. I mean, I see a lot of women that, their children see it and they grow up thinking it's okay to be in that type of environment. And I never grew up like that. And sometimes I think about it, it's what was I thinking, But, I didn't want to provide that for her. So she was definitely my strong point, of leaving him.
Well, I'm glad that, you had someone that you had a reason to leave that person, like your daughter. And it's good that you realize that, kids pick up those things really quick, right? Especially when they're young. They see that and, they're so smart. You don't understand how much they're so observant, right? So I'm glad you were able to get out of that relationship just for your daughter, for her sake, to begin with, and then for you. What was your life like now after, you left that person?
I can finally say I'm happy. I'm in a good place. It's funny how you mentioned that, when they see you single, I feel like a lot of people feel sorry for me, especially I'm 30, I have a daughter, I'm a single mom. And I feel like, society sees you oh, you need to settle down, things like that. But I really feel that once you're alone, and you're happy to be alone and be able to do things go eat by yourself, go, to the movies by yourself and feel okay with it. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to be like that. Because I feel like a lot of people, women and men, like you say, are so dependent on the partner for them to feel good about themselves. And I feel like I did that for the longest, and being alone is just an amazing. I'm not saying to completely be alone the rest of your life, but I feel like it's just a great feeling that you have. And, I have this beautiful little girl that always keeps me on my toes. And, I have wonderful friends and family. And I'm looking forward to the future. And I'm just in a great place right now.
Thank you. And I love that you shared that. And yeah, women, we get this bad rap if we're single. It's like it's the end of the world. It's not, right? I mean, my grandma still wonders when I'm going to get married, and I'm 33. So it's like she thinks I'm like the oldest maid ever probably in this world. And, it's crazy because I remember one time when I used to work, the ladies at my work, they were already married, and they're like, oh, it must be so hard for older women to find a man. It's like they won't be happy because they're going to be single. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is like, no wonder women are so afraid to like be alone, right? Because when you hear stuff like that, it's not good. It's toxic, right? And so I want women to realize that there's nothing wrong with being single, and there's nothing wrong with taking time to be on your own. Like, last year I went to Hawaii for the winter, and people are like, why are you going to go there? You don't know anybody. You're okay being alone. It's like, if I wasn't okay being alone, I wouldn't have gone, right? And sometimes you just need that time out, that alone time, because that's when you get to know yourself on a deeper level. You get to know what you're capable of. I mean, I was able to do things that I never thought was possible. Like, I never knew how to swim. I started swimming when I was in Hawaii, right? I went through to all these hikes, right? Because heights was not like something I loved, right? I actually, felt sick every time I, like looked down because I was scared of heights, but it helped me get over those things. So, when you go out there on your own, find out what you can do, find out what you're capable of, it really builds up your confidence. So I'm really glad you said that, there's nothing wrong with being single, and, it can be a good thing, right? You need to find yourself first before you can find that special person in your life, whether it's a man or a woman, right? You need to love yourself first, and then you can attract the right person. So thanks, Denise. Sorry, I had a little rant.
No, I love it. I could totally relate to you. So I love that message.
And Denise, for the woman who's listening to this podcast, she's probably in a similar situation like you, and maybe she's also deciding to leave the person who's holding her back, who's bringing her down, but she doesn't have like the confidence to do it, or she's still second guessing herself. What would be that one tip you would give to her? Just
love yourself. As long as you love yourself first and think of yourself first, because just like you said, like, you can't love someone else as long as, you have to love yourself first. And I feel like you have to put yourself first. And if it's not you, do it for your family. And just think about your children. I mean, that's what I did. I thought of my daughter and the situation that you're putting them in, because once you have children, it's not about you anymore. You can't be selfish, and you have to think about them, because you have so much power over this child and how they grow up, and you have to think about them. And if you're just, thinking of that person that is just consistently having this negative vibe, and because they need you, you have to think outside the box and just be like, okay, my child comes first. And if I can't do it for myself, I will do it for them.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad that you actually shared your story here today, because I think a lot of women can relate to it. And Denise, if there's anybody who would like to get to know a little bit more about you, about your services, what you do, is there any website or social media profiles we can connect with?
I have a blog. You could reach me at denisecardenas.com, or you can reach me on Facebook. Reach me on my personal page or on my fan page, and just look me up under Denise Cardenas.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. So to the listeners out there, if you want to connect with Denise, just head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Denise's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I really just want to thank Denise for taking the time to share her story. Denise, so thank you so much. I think this story can help a lot of women out there, especially when it comes to being with someone who they're not happy with, but they feel like they have to settle.
Right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate for you inviting me over.
Awesome. Well, you're more than welcome to come back for an encore. So
Awesome.
I'm sure the ladies would love that too. So to the listeners out there, be on the lookout for another new episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. Check out our resources to help you jumpstart your inner journey to self-confidence by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com.